Everybody, Greg Poole here with Bo Junkie Media, bojunkie.com. It's time for another podcast. No, me and the guest did not exchange emails about wearing damn near the same color shirt. I literally just noticed this and I'm not sure what to do about it, but it's too late now. So here we go. For those of you that are watching, you can see who today's guest is. If you don't know who he is, you can go over to the corner and practice falling down, and I'll be there in a minute. But for those of you listening, we'll get to that in a minute. Before we get started, though, I just wanted to thank all of you that listen to this stupid podcast. I started getting a bunch, and look, folks, I don't listen to these. No offense to the guests, no offense to myself. I don't look at numbers. I don't pay attention to any of that shit. You can tell by how often I do these. It's probably not as often as most of you would like. Not all of you, of course, because I'm not everybody's flavor. But I started getting a whole bunch of emails to the Bo Junkie email, and apparently, over the history of this podcast, we have now passed 2 million downloads, which is pretty cool. I don't know what that equals per episode. I don't give a shit. 2 million downloads isn't even a normal Joe Rogan podcast. So I'm not sitting here trying to say that it's anything special, but considering what we're doing, 2 million is pretty cool. And so I just want to say thank you to those that do listen to this, whether you listen to it because you like me or hate me or any of that stuff. That's cool. But the listens are the listens, so I appreciate it. So let's go ahead and jump into the podcast here. Today's guest is obviously someone I've known for a long time. He is, he's the GOAT of 3D archery. He's won indoor nationals. He's won Reading. Yeah, his shooting career goes without saying. Today's podcast, however, is just more of a catch-up thing, man. Just a couple homies going to catch up about, I talk with him regularly privately, but we haven't had him on the podcast for a while. He's made some modifications to his program per se over the last couple years. He just made a interesting announcement about his clothing relationship, and so I just figured I would do a little catching up with Levi Morgan. What's going on out there in PA, brother?
No, just raising a bunch of youngins, man. But yeah, thanks for having me back on. It's been a while for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. And speaking of the youngins, bro, your boys, any of us that were watching from an early age, and I've been to your house, and there's a folks in the garage. There's a full blown batting cage. There's a gym. There's a pitching machine. Yes, it goes to 100. That's scary. But Levi and Samantha have put forth every effort to give their children as they've grown up. I mean, obviously, not all of them. Some of them were very young, but the opportunity to succeed in whatever that they want to do. And baseball right now seems to be one where your oldest son there is excelling. That's pretty exciting. And just watching him play, you're like, yeah, he's better than them kids.
He started really young, and he's a very teachable kid. That's what I've always said. He wasn't incredibly athletic. He was kind of like me as a kid, where he's like athletic in an awkward way when he's really young, but he just works hard. And then now it's just baseball he loves, and then he started playing football last year, and he's just in love with that too. So who knows? He plays on a good team, the Legends, and win baseball, but it keeps us busy. Like tonight, I have my 2 year old's birthday party crew, and then Jax, my 7 year old, has a game at 8 in the morning. Uh, and then I am meeting Samantha with Landon at 9:45 to drive to West Virginia for a baseball tournament with Landon all day. And so it's nonstop. People are like, "How much do you practice?" And I'm like, "Practice what? It's not very much. I don't have time to breathe, much less practice. So, but it's fun. I love it, and I help coach both teams, and so we have fun.
Nice, nice. How many times does dad go out there and take some cuts?
Every time Mike is in, me and him will set the machine. I don't like hitting full speed with Landon in the cage because he likes to poke his head around the L screen and watch.
Ooh,
So
that could be bad.
yeah, so we turn the machine up and take some cuts when Mike is here. I fouled one off my foot the other day and forgot how bad that hurt. But yeah, I try. try to still see if I got it half the time, and then get humbled and go back to the house. So.
And then go in the house, you're like, oh, my lower back. What?
Oh yeah, yeah, no doubt. It's so funny how I was warned about this happening whenever I got a little older about you don't recover from injuries and all this stuff, and it is very true.
Right. Well, dude, well, we're not the same age. I'll just put it that way, but it doesn't even have to be an injury. It can literally just be an activity, and you don't have
Right, yeah,
to be injured, but you'll sure feel it.
you feel it. Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
All right. So that's, dude, watching the kids grow up and seeing them excel in the sports and all that stuff. It's freak. I love to watch it. So I think that part's great. So speaking of, let's just jump right into this. We're just going to jump right into the deep end. For those of you that watched, he did make an announcement about Element Outdoors, his new clothing relationship. We will get into that. But before we get into that, let's talk about the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Now, you have been in this game for a long time.
Hmm.
We met in like, I don't know, '09 or whatever the hell it was, you know. So you've been doing this at the highest level for a long, long time. You had the television show and you got into social media early, like early. And so you have a substantial Facebook following, which we're going to get into, the Instagrams, the YouTubes, the Bow Life TV, all of that stuff. But and so let me back up. So fans and archers' access to Levi Morgan was pretty much on a daily basis for a long, long time. And folks get used to it. They get used to, you know, you weren't quite at Paige Pierce's level of disclosure every day, all day, even at night. But for 10, 12 years, probably longer than that, you pretty much were on social media a lot.
Hmm.
That's what we did. We all did
Yeah.
it. Obviously, you are Levi Morgan, so folks became attached to that level of exposure to you. Well, last year and a half, think about the last year and a half, maybe 2 years, you have been on social media, not the show, folks. I'm just talking about Levi as a man, as an archer. That there has been a visible reduction in that amount of your personal content that you're putting out on social media. So what has precipitated that? Is that a life home balance with the kids getting older? Is that a I've been doing this for 20 years already, I need to do this? Like, for those of you that don't know, the hunting television industry is pivoting from your normal TV stuff to more digital, and so the YouTube's going to be more important. Like, what kind of precipitated that? Because Stevie Wonder could see that you have kind of toned back on the normal social media stuff.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was a lot of things. It definitely been a couple years. I just needed to happen, really. The social media thing was funny because I feel like I was late to Facebook. Like, everybody had Facebook, and I was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And then I got it. I think you were part of that, when I got it, and way back
Maybe.
in the day. And then it just became a something that then Instagram, and then that started to blow up and grow, and then it became a part of the business model, right? Like, and then sponsors wanted to be a part of that and attached to it, and so then I did it so much, and then it was like this. I didn't realize it was even happening, but it kind of changed me a little bit, to this attention hungry person that I didn't like.
Really?
Just long story short, I just felt like I had to read all the comments. I had to see what people thought about me. I would win a tournament and post it and just need that attention. And I hated it. I was like, why am I even doing this? And so, um, and obviously there was a lot that played into it. Work life balance. Sure. I got 4 kids, and like I just talked about with baseball, I don't have time to practice, much less go out and shoot Instagram content and reels and all that. And so, I do hate that I've stepped back for the people that really follow me, and I loved being in touch with people, and staying connected more personally to them. But it was just something I had to do because I didn't like what social media was turning me into, really, or what, and it's not social media's fault. It was my fault. But again, it was just one of those things that I wasn't handling well.
Hmm.
And just, for personal reasons, I had to take a step back, and we're still posting content. I don't read any comments. I don't look at messages. I don't do anything like that. I just, post and really, and then we, had a couple meetings that was very centered around YouTube with some of my bigger partners,
Right.
and making a big push there, and where people could watch our actual content. Instagram is not really a platform, or Facebook, where, we can air hunts and we can air stories, and
Right.
it's more of a, this is my everyday life place, right? And I couldn't let people into that anymore because it was, I have 4 kids that are my life, and my wife, and at home, and I was just putting more effort into my, you know, Instagram than I was at home, and it just had to stop. So now we are trying to use that to push people to our YouTube platforms, and what we're, where we're actually telling our stories, and where we are, and what we do for a living. And so we made a really big push with effort towards YouTube, and putting out a lot of content on YouTube. And so I only have so much time to give. And that was another reason I had to kind of dial back my waking up and drinking coffee posts, and, just dumb stuff is like, okay, this is crazy to me. And honestly, it's not who I am, at the core. Like, no, I'm not a social media guy at the core. I just became one because I feel like in our industry, we kind of have to be a Swiss Army knife to make it, to really make it. You can't just be a great shooter or you're going to disappear. You can't just have a show, you're going to disappear. You have to be good at a lot of things to really make it. And so that just became a big tool, and behind the scenes just kind of turned me into somebody I didn't like. So that's why I'm not on there as much.
So that's very interesting, and I think it's something that a lot of people, like we hear trolls on the internet, and we hear people that are chasing clout on the internet, and folks doing stuff just for likes. But when those likes are your living, it kind of changes that. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about someone with 100 likes, or if you're talking about someone with 50 million.
Hmm.
it, it's an interesting conversation for people to understand that whether you are Mike Jones in Alabama with 112 followers that's posting stuff and hoping that they get that dopamine fix of someone liking them, um, or liking their post or commenting, to the 3D goat who, it's kind of counterintuitive. Like, you've won, you probably don't even know how many tournaments you've won in your life.
Yeah.
All, it's a bunch of them. It's all of them. It's like, well, how much more attention does one get
Right.
winning? Like, are you getting more attention now for winning the IBO last week than you did for the hundreds of IBO tournaments you've won over the last 15 years? So it's kind of counterintuitive. So talk a little bit about that so folks can understand that, one, you or Kanye West or anyone with, you're not immune to the same kinds of things that normal people.
For sure. Yeah, I'm very, very normal. Like I am, it's very disappointing, just because I think it was a lot of things. So, because like early in my career, I was very hungry to win. And like, you win a tournament, you win an ASA, you win a shooter of the year. And it's like, man, you get this high, right, from winning, because you're chasing that dream, and you're living it. And so like from a kid, that was my dream. And like, then all of a sudden that starts to wear off after you do it year after year and year after year. And then you start to get numb to those feelings, and you don't get that high anymore from it, and then you start looking elsewhere. And I think I looked to social media because about that same time, I started getting this on social media. And it was like, can we get 10,000 likes? Can we get this? Can we get, let's grow this? And it was just became, and then as much as it was the good attention, it was the bad attention that was poisoning too. It was the haters and the trolls and the get my blood pressure up and keep me up. And it was poison from the good to the bad, I felt like, and so it was like in a weird transition where I was like, I couldn't feel anything from the wins. I couldn't feel, I only felt the losses, and I still feel that way in some ways,
Right.
where I always said my motivation is not how much I like to win, it's how much I hate to lose. And
Right.
it's still true. I hate losing. But I talk to guys about it all the time. I won't call them by name, but the guys I compete with at the highest level, and it's after you've won so many events, and I don't say that in a bragging way. It's just the way it's been.
Right.
But I got to a certain point where the wins didn't feel. They felt like okay, just another shot. I mean, some of them did. Like, yeah, sure, you 14 the last one to win, you feel that, right?
Right.
But just a normal win, like, okay, yeah, I got to shoot a 10 here. Boom, shoot a 10. I'm like, I'm driving home and I'm like, I don't feel anything. So I just think you start looking for that high in other places. And I think that's true with a lot of things in life. You think that's going to last forever, that initial feeling of reaching a goal and but then when it becomes like I just hate losing, the fun is kind of gone from those wins. The high is kind of gone from those wins.
Right.
I'm still ultra competitive, and that's the only reason I've been driven to do this for so long. And I think that's why you see a lot of guys in some certain sports, well, in every sport, they come in and they just crush it, and then they go away
Right.
because when they think they've chased that dream, when you're chasing a dream is the funnest part, is the most that's what I try to tell all these kids that are like trying to do something. I'm like, you're living in the funnest part of it, like you haven't accomplished it yet.
Right.
And that hunger and that drive, once you get there and once you do it a few times, it starts to go away. And so if you don't have something else that's pushing you to win, then you're going to just disappear because you don't have that intensity that you had.
Right.
And I think that's why you see so many people come in for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. You think they're going to dominate forever, and then all of a sudden they disappear and go away. They don't, that fire burns out. They can't find it to work. They can't find it to prepare. And whether I'm cursed or whatever it is, I've always just put in the work and it was like, you know what, I'm not going to lose this weekend. I'm not sure where that comes from or whatever. It's just I think mainly just I hate losing, and that's what I've always.
Well, and I mean,
I
let's
don't
be
want
honest.
anybody else to win either.
Right. Well, right. But I mean, also, dude, you have to, I mean, you were there, it was your life. There was several years there where you're like, I got 52 bucks in the bank.
Oh yeah,
I got to win to pay my bills. I got to,
sure.
after this, I got to go lay brick.
Mhm.
I got to do a damn fireplace this
Right.
weekend or next week or, so that is a certain kind of motivation that, I'm not asking for your financials or anything, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're probably not struggling to buy a sweatshirt at Dick's Sporting Goods at this point of your life.
Right, yeah, but there was definitely that time, and that wasn't fun either, but it was motivator,
Sure.
to know I had to make it and had to win. And then, you think like my thought was if I could just get enough endorsements and really, just get my foot in here and be, show these companies I'm going to be here forever. Once I get comfortable financially, then that pressure will be gone. That was the wrong answer. It's a different pressure, but now it's an expectation from those companies to perform.
Right.
And that's also crippling to a lot of people too, is expectation. When your fans expect you to win, the companies that are paying you a lot of money expect you to win, that's worse than you expecting you to win, because now you feel you're not even doing it for yourself. So it's been a lot of like regrouping in my career, I think, of like, wait a minute, why am I doing this? And like how am I going to find the fire to go out there and prepare for this weekend? When if I win, nobody will say a word, but if I lose, everybody's going to be like, "Oh, he's washed up and he's gone," right? So it's
Right.
hard, it's hard to just continue to find that fire, but I feel it when I get on the range.
Right.
Like I still have it, as far as that competitor that's like I'm going to hit every freaking one of these rings this weekend. I still have that in me, and it's like I don't think it's ever going to go anywhere because if it would have, it'd have been gone by now. So,
Absolutely.
um, like this past weekend at the IBO, I got there and I was like, can't hit them all if you don't hit the first one. That was my first thought on the first target, and it's a 45 and a half, 46-yard turkey off over a cliff, the 11 ring the size of a dime. And I'm like, gotta hit it, and I did somehow, but it was like that guy is still in there talking. So it's like, it's just the preparing for the tournaments, which is the hard part when nobody's looking and it's just me at home. And I know I got to build a bow and arrows and level sights and get sight tapes and work on my, what targets I'm struggling with. And there's so much work that goes into winning week in, week out, and just being competitive,
Right.
so.
So let me ask this, and then we'll move on. And that's the mental side of that decision. So when you actually made the decision, like, hey, look, I need to, and I want to call it a restructure, but I'm going to stop doing this. I need to cut back on this. When you actually made that decision, that's a pretty big life pivot.
Right.
Obviously being married with kids, that's a thing, no doubt. But having done what you did, not just shooting wise, but social media wise and with the business side of things, what you did was a huge pivot. What There had to be some, but I've never asked you this, but what sort of mental struggles or adjustments did you have to make once you set your mind to the fact that you need to make this adjustment?
You talking about stepping back
Yeah.
from social media? Yeah. Yeah, I think it was definitely weird at first, because it had been such a big part of my life, like day in and day out, to just say I'm not going. I'm stepping away, and I don't know when and or if I'm ever coming back. But more than the mental struggles that would cause, I think there's a soul issue that was at stake. Really, not that my soul was hanging in the balance, but I mean, it felt that way in a way because I felt so poisoned from it.
Mm,
I just felt like I needed a major detox from like just that whole side of my life.
sure.
And so it was super weird. Like I think when you are addicted to anything, I think social media is addicting. Obviously that dopamine and you go in any restaurant and sit down and it's pretty obvious that social media is addicting. Everybody's staring at their phones and so I think that first couple weeks was like so weird because every time I got sat down, I went to go get on it. It was like just a habit. I saw that and I hated it. But I'll tell you, after a month or so, I didn't miss it. I felt like I could think better, I could function, I was more present, and it just, you know, I didn't really have any mental negatives after that. I was afraid that, yeah, maybe some sponsors would come and say, hey, this ain't going to work. Like, you got to do more.
Right.
And I was just going to have to tell them that I couldn't, and I'd already made my mind up that this literally is something I have to do personally for me and my family. And like, if you expect me to be on there like I was, I just can't, I can't because there's more important things in life than getting a check. There's more important things in life than shooting a bow or running a business. And it was just me at a personal level. I wanted to be able to look at myself in the mirror and not have this ugly shadow that I, drug around. And so, uh, just that was the main thing. I wanted to feel good about me and who I was, and I wanted to be able to have this talk with my kids and show them that dad can be without this. and how was I ever going to talk to them about anything like this, and how they needed to make a change or cut something out of their life if I couldn't do it, you know? And so that was like, I would come in and say, hey, you need to get off your iPad. You've been on it for 2 hours, and sit down and scroll on my phone for 2 hours. I was like, that seems like not living by example or leading by example. So just a lot of things like that. And I didn't have any mental struggles after a couple weeks as far as being
Good.
away from it. I don't even think about it, honestly, ever now. So
Did any sponsors call and say, "Hey, this isn't going to work"?
no, nobody,
Nice.
which I can't believe. I'm very thankful to work with companies. Well, yeah, they did, but they're not my sponsors anymore, you know.
Fair.
Um,
Fair.
so, but like, I'm very thankful the companies I work with, they're like, for the most part, the ones I've been with for a long time or am with for any length of time, they get things like this, and that personal and family life comes first.
Right.
And then we'll figure out a way to make up for it somewhere else, and they've worked with me on that capacity. Like the fact I'm doing way more on YouTube, and stuff like that. Like, it's not about, any company that calls me and goes, we need 10 Instagram posts a month and we need you to do, it's instantly like, hey man, I'm going to cut this conversation pretty short. Like, if that's what you need out of me, I'm not your guy. Like, if you want to be a part of what I do, and like, we figure out how to build this together, then that's fine. Like, let's have a conversation. But which unfortunately is a lot of companies nowadays. Like, that's all they want. It's like, we want posts and, this and this. And it's like, that's not who I am, really, at the core. That's not, and honestly, I just got to the point where I respect, or have too much respect for, the people that follow me and listen to my opinion, and to just, because there's so many companies that reach out and say, hey, we want to write you a check, but we need you to promote our product and on Instagram and do this many posts and say this. And it's like, I'm good. I've never even used the product, and so it's just, that's not me. I don't want to live in that world anymore, and do anything like that. So
Right. Well, and I mean, not to besmirch our industry at all, Levi, but a lot of those companies that you reference, none by name, of course, but most of those marketing people aren't trained in what marketing is. And so they're simply following the trend of, oh, social media is it.
right,
Social media is part of
right,
it, but our industry is a little bit antiquated. And so people see these trends in these companies and they just go all in on it and they really don't understand the dynamics of it. So
sure.
that's just the reality. So, all right. But first of all, I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah,
You have
and I
always,
think, but like, I wanted to say one thing too. Like, I think everybody could probably take a step back, and look at themselves too, like, just from the normal to the top to whatever, it doesn't matter. What's inside is, like, honestly, my trophies don't matter, my wins don't matter, none of that really matters. When it's my time to go, those trophies are going to sit here and rot, and maybe my kids and my grandkids will hold on to them for a little while, but eventually they ain't going to be here, right? So you got to be able to take care of what's on the inside, and know that that's okay, but, so I'd say everybody, it would probably do a lot of people good to look, make sure why they're doing things and for the right reasons, and take care of what's most important. I'll just say that. So
absolutely. Well, I appreciate your honesty as always. You've always been very forthcoming, and so I appreciate that. So you made a comment there that's going to be a good segue into this next topic, and you said that you have respect for the people that follow you and about the things you say matter to
mhm.
you
Right.
because it matters to them. And so for those of you that saw or are looking at Levi right now, he is now with Element Outdoors. It's a camo clothing company. So b- before we get into that, and once again, this goes back to your comment of what you say to the people that follow you matters, because let's be honest, Levi converts. And by converts, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that don't understand the dynamics of what it is we do, and paying someone $1 to use and promote your product is great, but if they don't convert to any sales over, you've lost money, because no one pays Levi based on his good looks. Sorry,
Yeah.
no one.
God.
Yeah, welcome to my world, son. But yes, and so, but it's converting, and you have to convert your presence to sales, and Levi does that very, very well. And so, before we get into the element outdoors thing, I am compelled. You know me. You probably know what's coming. The timing of this is like, when I look at my watch, and so full disclosure, people, I actually saw a post from Levi, oh shit, I don't know, a month or so ago, and he was wearing a normal shirt, but I could see his pants. And I was like, the hell? So I took a screenshot of it and sent it to Levi, and I'm like, those aren't First Light,
Mm-hmm.
and they're camo. If they had been just a normal color, I wouldn't have said anything, but this is what I do, and Levi
Yeah.
knows this. And so the timing of this is not normal end of contract, new contract timing.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah. I mean, sure. So let me see how I'm allowed to answer this.
Oh,
So I'll just say this, like in our industry, business wise, like I know a lot of times, like the guy that or the girl that you're following, not talking to you personally, Greg, just in general,
mhm.
people, they see you with a different company, automatically go, help. He's just jumping to get money, but sometimes it's not that person, sometimes like when I went to First Light, I plan on being there forever. That's just the way I approach relationships. But things change, business changes, relationships change, people leave that you know, you know, and sometimes business relationships just run their course, and that's you're not aligned anymore, and you're going separate ways, and that's just the way it goes. I'm not allowed to say much on that. Um, but yeah, it's I middle of contract year, and it's just the way it happened. I was so I didn't know what the plan was going forward, and just it's funny how God works with us, always has. It was just like we started kind of doing some research, and it was kind of I was man, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this. Anyway, yeah, we're with Element Outdoors, and it's been great. It's a great relationship with those guys, and like I'll just instead, I don't really want to say anything that would look bad on First Light at all. I had some great years there, and they make great gear, and I appreciate the years I spent there. But like I can't really say anything about how the relationship ended. Um, so it just ended. I'm no longer with them, and so
Obviously.
yeah, and so then it was like, let's just move forward and look ahead, and so then I started doing research, and you know just into people more than anything, because I'm really tired, just in general, in every category of private equity and corporate, and just can't stand it. If I don't know who I'm dealing with at the top level, I don't want to really be a part of this anymore. And like the corporate emails and the corporate flash sales and the corporate, it's like I can't do it. It's just I have zero motivation. And so Mark Heck is the owner of Element Outdoors, and I've known Mark for a long time. And he's actually from 10 minutes from where I live, which is weird. But so we started talking through a mutual friend, and then Brady Arview's there, who I've worked with a long time ago. I know Brady and Chris Cobbett. We all started talking and just really kind of put our heads together. And then Mossy Oak became a part of that, which is really who I am as like we just did a Road to EO video that's on the Element Outdoors website. And I'll just say this, I had a lot of conversations with a lot of companies. And most of them had ownership level offers, big money offers, life changing opportunities. And I picked this one, and it was, not based off of that. It was based off of the vision of the company. It was based off the people there, and it was based off really the business model of not screwing the customer out of another dollar, and that was really like when you start to look into where, I'll just say this, not where, but like how much it costs to make good gear and how much they're charging to the customer,
Right.
they are like people are getting ripped off. You know what I'm saying? And it was like we can make great gear and still make money as a company and not not really put the consumer in a bad place. And that was like the vision of EO, and like kind of just who they were, because Mark started EO for reasons like didn't like corporate, didn't like that atmosphere, didn't like that kind of relationship, and he wanted to build a company that was better and good and like that the consumer could afford, really, and not, this isn't a Kmart brand, you know what I'm saying? It is a high level brand. And the vision that we have going forward with EO is very high level gear.
Right.
I sat in a meeting in Iowa the other day and looked at gear that we're coming out with, and it's as good as any gear or better than I've ever used in my entire life. And so, and like just the people there, I can have a conversation with at any moment. I can text them, I can talk to them, and it was just the right place. And then, I'm going through my scrapbook and I'm looking at old pictures of me as a kid with deer. Every one of them, I'm wearing Mossy Oak. And then it's like I remember being that kid. If I wasn't wearing, like, I was not happy in the woods if I had to wear something besides Mossy Oak Breakup. And then it was so every picture I've got me as a little chubby kid holding a 4-point, I'm in Mossy. It's just like that's who I am, and then that tradition, and so it just was the right fit, honestly, for who I was, and so it took a long time, like 2 months, for us to, really, me and Samantha, to talk about it and feel good about it, and just say, okay, this is what we're going to do, and went and met with the guys twice. They flew here once, I flew out there, and just really, I wanted to have a good idea of who they were. They wanted to have a good idea who I was, and that was more important, really, than just like, this is what we want to pay, this is what we need you to do. And
Right.
and I'm tired of those relationships. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Um, I want to know who I'm working with now going forward. I don't, because
Characters.
I
Character.
probably should apologize to people and the fans of me, because I wasn't a business guy when I started this. I am a my dad's a stonemason. I come from construction backgrounds, and so I didn't know how this worked. I didn't, for years even. I just like, this is the job I got to do, and this is what they're willing to pay me. And so once you get close to it and start realizing how some of these businesses run, and cost to what it costs to make a certain product and what they're selling it for, and it's just like, holy smokes, I promoted that product, and probably shouldn't have, had no idea, right? But so now I'm just going to be way more careful going forward, with partnering with people. I want to find a lot more out about the business and the company before I say yes. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if any of that came out right. I don't know if I'm going to get sued for any of that. I hope not, but you never know anymore. I don't
Correct.
have anything bad to say personally or business to any particular brand at all. I just, I know I got to be way more careful with who I partner with going forward. That's the main thing.
Yeah. Well, first of all of that totally made sense, and it felt felt to me like it was something you needed to say anyway. And so
Yeah.
certainly not going to interrupt, but uh yeah, it sounded like that was something that you needed to get off your heart anyway. But I think I need to back up for a second.
Okay.
Um Trying not to read between a bunch of lines, but the lines are really far apart.
Hmm.
And because I have a little inkling of how this industry works, I probably don't need to read in Braille. But let me ask this. So, for those of you wondering, Levi, there's a lot to unpack with what Levi just said, but the long and short of it is, he referenced people jumping around, and every time a high level person leaves, even a low level person that's not even getting paid, people on the internet are like, oh, left for the money. Well, sometimes,
You get fired.
yeah.
Sometimes.
Wow. Okay. Well, we'll add that to the mix here. But uh yeah, sometimes you do leave for money, but a lot of times that's not the reason. And very few. If you were to add up the last 100 moves you've seen in our sport, um, and I'm aware of these, probably less than 10% were for money.
Hmm.
So if you think everything's just done for money, some things are done for money. Yes, 100%. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's what a business is called.
Yeah.
And whatever you do for a living, you're doing things for money too. So don't judge based on that. But I've been watching Levi, and look, folks, I tracked Levi damn near stage 5 stalker when I was with B Stinger and showed up at his rental in Ellicottville, New York, when he was shooting for a different stabilizer company. And he never met my big ass before. Well, no, he had met me with sweet seats, but we weren't friends at that point. And I tracked this some bitch down, and we were shooting. He was shooting in the parking lot. So I'm aware what it takes to get Levi Morgan to change products. And it's not generally money. And it's
Hmm.
not been. I've been around Levi since then until now. And money's always a factor. Don't be dumb. But like he has said, character of the company is something that he has factored. Character of the people at the company is something that he's factored in. And I can just tell you right now, sometimes it's hard to dig down deep enough with people at higher levels, especially of private equity firms, to know what the character of those people are. So here's my observation and question for you, sir. I've not seen you make any changes in June before. You
Right. Yeah.
you just referenced getting fired or someone getting fired or just getting fired, period. And I'm not going to insinuate that you got
Right. Yeah.
from First Light, but
Right. Yeah. No, I wasn't saying that. I was
yeah,
just saying that sometimes that's the case. Right.
yeah, absolutely. And I think what Levi was alluding to is sometimes the talent, in this case Levi, is not always privy to the true inner workings of the business model of a company and
Right.
how that business model is determined moving forward. And
Mhm.
so I've not seen you change. Yeah, and you've changed bow companies once, and now you're back with the original. You shot gold tip for a coon's age ever, and
Yeah.
now
50
you're with
years.
Ultra. I mean, you've changed really, like you've not changed to 6 different companies or 5. You've literally changed like once or twice in your
Mhm.
whole career. So it's not like you're an equipment whore and you're not jumping.
Right.
So is there anything that you could, no, you've already said you can't say that. So, um, was your departure from First Light, did it have anything to do with your performance on the tournament trail or on the hunting trail or anything to do with your sales conversion?
I don't. I
In your
don't know.
opinion?
Yeah. I mean, I think we weren't aligned going forward, and it was just time to end the relationship. I think mainly. I don't want to talk too much about it because well, I'm not, honestly, I can't say too much about it.
Okay.
There's a lot of things that survive contracts that you just can't say, like that could be deemed as me talking bad about them when I have nothing bad to say. I'm just, it was time to move on for both of us, and I think, you know, there's so many, I know, and that leaves so many things unanswered, and I hate that it's unanswered. I would love to be able to just come out and tell everybody, the truth, and sometimes that's just I'm not able to do that, not that I was treated unfairly or anything like that. It's just sometimes in business, like if at your job, any job, it's like, you know what? It's time to move on. Whether it's my decision or the company's decision, we both mutually said, okay, then let's just go our separate ways and have a clean break here and not talk about each other after this. And so that's kind of all I have to say. I don't really have anything. I'm not on here like, I hope those guys,
Right. No,
are
I
in a
get it.
ditch somewhere. I'm just, just moving forward and being very careful about who I partner with, and
Well, well, I think a lot of what isn't said is pretty obvious. So we'll just move on from that. I've never seen Levi have any mid-season change issues like this. I'm just trying to figure out not that I'm just trying to figure out in my history of knowing you, I don't think you've ever been in a situation like this mid-year that I can remember. So,
no, never been. I've never been. Yeah,
okay.
never.
Yeah, that tends to speak volumes as well. So anyway, let's yeah, understood. Contractual obligations and whatnot and what have yous. Understand. So let's go back over to Element. So, um, obviously, after a little bit of research, Element Outdoors is owned by Expedition Enterprises.
Hmm.
They own like 10, 11 different brands. You know, I'm not going to list all of them, of course, but you can go over to Expedition Enterprises and check them out. Definitely go over to Element Outdoors and check out their camo line. But let's talk about what you said. You mentioned the word ownership, and so I think we've been in this a long time. I think like Jim Shockey and some of those guys way back when were kind of the first powerful hunting entities that started getting ownership and brands as part of their relationship or their sponsorship per se. It becomes more than a sponsorship when you become owner, but that's not the point.
Right.
So, but Jim was one of the first guys I remember way back when that started taking stock in the company as part of that. So let's talk about that. You mentioned ownership. So not the financials, of course, but what is the true nature of Levi Morgan and Element Outdoors partnership at this point?
Right. Yeah. Like I am. Mark Heck is the owner of Element, and then he's an owner of a lot of brands. Super smart guy. But I voiced my opinion very early that I wanted to be more than just somebody you write a check to and that is doing deliverables. I want to be involved. I want to help grow this. I want this to be not a short-term thing. I want this to be like, if I'm going to make this move, I want it to be a move, and I would like to be here 20 years from now. I want to help any way I can. I want to be involved as much as you would like me to be. And but Mark's a smart guy. He's not giving me his business by any means. So because he's passionate or more passionate about this brand as I am, probably way more because he started it and dumped a lot of money into it, and Brady and Chris and all those guys the same way. Their team is really unbelievable. I had no idea that the level of competency that team has. From top to bottom with all the different things that they're able to do with chest fight and hunt camp and all the different things that they have under that brand. So That's why Element was so much fun for me to think about and to partner with, is because of the potential that we have to do something really cool, and that is grow it into a really high end brand that everybody can enjoy.
Sure.
And that was kind of the attraction for me. And yes, I don't have just this is what you're getting paid every month, this is what you got to do contract there. It's way more involved than that. Obviously, I'm not going to tell anybody what that looks like, but it's
Right.
I will say that I am very invested in this company with my heart, and can't wait to see where it goes. And really want people to give it a shot, because even the products that are there now, like the Adapt series that I'm wearing right here, some of the best stuff I've ever put on. You know, the pants, like, and for me, like, I'm not a short guy, and so to have the ability to do custom sizes like that for tall people, or
Oh,
like,
really?
you got tall, like I have pants that are not plenty long for me. And so they just to fit everything, and like they're not trying to do something where they're like, yeah, well, that's like 3% of the population. We're not making the product for them. You know what I'm saying? Which is what you run into in a lot of places. Like they're like, well, we're trying to hit their where we can sell the most, and which obviously they got to run a business, but they care about everybody. They're like, okay, yeah, we're going to make a, those pants, we're going to have a fit for you. Shirts are going to be tall and athletic fit, and so it's not a big, you don't feel like you're wearing a trash bag. You know what I'm saying? And so, but they're not satisfied. And
Right.
that's the type of person I am, right? Like they don't like losing either, and like that we align very much in that sense where, um, their team hates to lose and they want to win. And like they want to create the best product in the world. And I think we're gonna, to
So
be honest.
let me ask you this, and if this is putting the cart, if this is too far down the road, just say so. I
Yeah,
won't hold it against you. Have you been working with them long enough to talk about materials? Like what, you know, merino wool has obviously been one of the call tags. There's other
right.
brands
Yeah.
that have their specific kinds of down. And I
Hmm.
am, folks, just full disclosure, no, I am not an expert in camo clothing, in camo materials, in insulative materials, in alpaca wool or merino wool. I'm not an expert in any of them. However, those are things that matter in our
Sure.
industry. I can remember you and I wearing the same camo that you were sponsored by, shit, 2009 or 10.
Mhm.
That was basically polyester with some fake wool sewn on the
Yeah,
inside.
yeah.
That shit didn't breathe for that shit didn't breathe
No,
for nothing. If we had to breathe through our skin, we would have died. And
yeah, no doubt, dude. And that's, on that Road DEO video, that's one of the things I said is like, once you hunt in good gear, you can't go back.
right,
You can't go backwards.
right,
Like I did sheep hunts and that stuff you're talking about, and like but I had never hunted in good gear, so
right,
I didn't know. I just froze my butt off, sweated a lot.
right.
And so then when I started hunting in good gear, me and Micah were both like, bro, this is not the same. I
Right.
don't feel the same, right? I feel like I can go anywhere.
Yeah.
And so I would never, ever take a step back with my gear, just because it'd be like shooting a great bow and then going and buying something terrible that wouldn't hit where you're aiming. Nobody's going to do that. So it's yeah, like I definitely am at the place where we're talking materials, what it's going to be made out of, even materials nobody's ever messed with.
Oh, okay.
Um, and so some really, really cool stuff coming uh, before this hunting season. And so just can't wait to get that out to the world, and before people can actually experience it and see it. Like I've got to hold some of it and put it on and try it on and feel it and understand the technology. And it's really, really cool. So,
So let me ask you this question, because one thing that does kind of matter. I mean, one of your best pictures ever is your frozen face up in the tundra hunting
hmm.
Eddie or yak or whatever the hell you were
Yeah,
hunting.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Muskox.
Yeah, there you go. Also, he's a Midwest guy, and he does the late season stuff. I mean, he
Hmm.
hunts until damn week, 3 days before Lancasters, for Christ's sake.
Yeah,
And
that's why I
so,
always do so good there.
oh,
Yeah.
that's great. And so, cold weather. So, once again, folks, I am no expert, but I do have questions. I am made of questions. Levi's used to it, so you get used to it too. What is Element Outdoors' preferred insulative material going to be? Can you speak on that? Like, what is their material going to be for the cold weather stuff that's going to help you not be cold?
Man, I can't say that part. Like, I mean, obviously, merino wool is a big base layer part, but the outer layer, people are going to lose their minds. Like, we got a puffy coming out that is the quietest thing I've ever, like, I never imagined it being possible. And man, Brady, don't be mad at me for saying that. He's gonna be like, bro, you can't, you just sweat. And so, but like we have so much cool, like in the outer layer stuff that is because obviously it gets so cold. Like that's the hard part, right? Is not staying warm. It's staying warm in something that you can actually move and
Right.
pull a bow back in, and you're not firing your thumb button on your collar that's out here. So very technical stuff that is like insanely warm and quiet.
Okay.
And like it's just made for a bow. Mark's a bow hunter. Mark is not a, that's one thing I really like is Mark he's like a fit guy that is that adventure hunter.
How
Like
big is
he's
he?
going on, huh?
How big is he?
Mark's not super tall. He's probably, 6 foot, but he's jacked. You know what I'm saying?
Copy.
And he's the guy that's like going Kodiak grizzlies and sheep and elk, and he's killing giant elk. He's the probably the most famous elk shot you've seen on Instagram. It's like 100-yard, 400-inch bull, lighted nog, just hits it right in the pump station. I've
Nice.
seen it a million times. That's Mark, but he is just a high level guy that is well, obviously, he's built businesses his whole life to a high level, and he expects a lot out of himself and his team and his products.
Right.
He's not doing anything to be second or to be. He doesn't need the money. He's not. Element is not for him to make money. It's for him to make the best gear in the world, right? So, um, obviously, as a business, it still needs to be successful.
Sure.
But like that's Mark is not about money. He's like, let's do something fun
Mhm.
and let's build it better than anybody else builds it. And so that's one of the big things that attracted me here was that we're going to build this and we're going to beat everybody. And that's what that's kind of what we want to do.
Right.
It's but yeah, I wish I could say like I wish I could give more details on like what material and proprietary stuff, but at this point it hasn't even did a trickle launch yet, and so that's coming. So
Well, and I mean, as much as I would love to get that information out of you, I don't think the Bow Junkie Media podcast is exactly where Element Outdoors wants to be doing grand releases.
yeah,
It's
well,
just
I just don't want to be the guy that's saying things he shouldn't.
right. And so, and right, yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, that all, first of all, congratulations. That's awesome for you. That is spectacular. And just from one, you being involved, they're obviously going to make adult sized products, which I
Mhm.
appreciate. Being an
Yep.
adult, being a normal adult sized person like myself, I appreciate that part of it. But we can circle back once that stuff starts to drop some more and talk about, all the actual deets of,
Yeah.
I'll use the lame word of just down. There's
Yeah.
so many different kinds of, but anyway. And so
Eh,
let's talk.
Well, there's also, on top of staying warm, there's, we the polygene stuff that we're coming. It's going to be in the shirts and the hunting clothing about scent is huge as
Oh,
well,
okay.
and what it does with scent. It's obviously, dude, this industry's been sold scent gimmicks for 100 years, right? But like this actually is pretty cool. It's not something you're washing it in or anything like that. It's just it's a cool technology. I think people are going to really see a difference in. So
Nice. Can
yeah,
can you speak on the sales and distribution plan for Element Outdoors?
yeah, it's direct to consumer. So
Will it
online,
always be?
I don't know that. That'll be a decision that I'm sure there'll be meetings about that going forward. But it's just definitely right now in the near future, it's a direct consumer plan.
Okay. Well, I
And
mean,
if there's something else, I haven't been made aware of it. So
right.
um, yeah, that's
Yeah.
all I know of.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not suggesting one over the other. It's just, I mean, there's certainly successful business models for that in that category. So
Right. Yeah.
I was just asking to see kind of what the, how that part's going to go. But
Sure.
um,
I mean, I'm sure once there's going to be a time where we have to sit down and talk about that. Just like a lot of companies, even in the clothing category that have been direct to consumer, once that demand gets there, it's like, okay, what are we going to do now? So who knows? I don't have the answer to that as far as what 3 years from now looks like, but for now it's direct to consumer.
and so the Element Outdoors website's the spot to go for that.
Yes,
And,
yes. And I am going to be doing stuff on Instagram and YouTube and all that stuff. I really want to be a little more detailed on what I'm using and what that looks like, how it fits, for different scenarios like early whitetail, elk, October whitetails, November, December, like what the kit actually looks like that I'm using for layering. And so people aren't on there going, I have no idea if this is the right thing I need to get for that. But all of that's coming. Like we're building a way more streamlined way for people to shop and understand what they're getting with Element.
so you just mentioned something there that brings a question up. So you said you're doing a lot more on YouTube and stuff, and with the whether folks understand it or not, the pivot, not necessarily abandoning hunting television, but there's big changes coming. So I probably should have asked this earlier in the conversation when we were talking about your personal transition, but I didn't. So here we go. You started the Manimal um, program. You started a podcast, etc. Um, Obviously, as part of your personal step back, those things haven't, especially the podcast, which folks, I'm the worst at putting out podcasts regularly, so I'm certainly not judging. Uh, but um, wh- where are you at with the whole manimal mindset thing and the podcast? I'm sure folks want to know that as well.
Yeah, that wasn't really part of my intentional step back at all. The podcast, when we started Manimal Mindset, like we built a studio and really set it up to do high level video podcasts with guests. Like I wanted to bring in cool guests, like we had in like just from the mindset side of competition. I wanted to dig deeper. We had Austin Riley and Ben and Brandon Lilly and a lot of people that have excelled in different places. And the podcast was doing great and growing, and I enjoyed doing it. The problem was Micah, who runs all the video equipment and edits, moved from here. So he was here, every day in the office, and then he moved back to North Carolina, and I'm an idiot, and I can't edit or film any of this stuff. So all I knew how to do is turn the lights on in here. And so it just really threw a wrench in that scheduling and doing it with the vision that we set out to do it with.
Right.
Still something we are going to do. Just we're trying to figure out if we're going to batch shoot podcasts. But then it's hard to stay relevant with like what's going on when you shoot them 6 months in advance. Or if I'm just going to hire somebody locally. If you're listening to this and you live near me and you want to edit podcasts and film them, just don't hit me up on Instagram because I won't see it. Hit Greg up. Hit Greg up. He'll text me.
He's not wrong.
So,
He's he's not wrong.
yeah. So I don't know if I'm going to hire somebody to do that or what. So it's
Okay.
something I still something I still want to do for sure. And like with my personal website, we have big plans there for sure. And in Mark Heck and the team at Element, we have something really cool coming with my personal brand stuff. That's going to be, I think it's going to be the coolest thing ever. So. I can't say much about that either because it's still such an infant stage. But yeah, we have big plans. It's not dead for sure. It's just I don't have a giant team working for me to
Sure.
get things done. It's always just been me and Micah, really. So but I am partnering with Mark and Element and the guys over there and all their teams to really help my personal stuff, not just on the Element side of things. So
Okay.
yeah.
So looking at and like I just pulled up the Expedition Enterprises website, one, two,
Mhm.
three, four, five, six, seven, eight. So they got damn near 10 brands over there, just from what I can see.
Right.
Hmm. Obviously, probably not the bow company. So,
Yeah.
folks, let's just get that out of
Yeah.
the way right now. Levi shoots for Matthews.
And will for a long time. And
Levi,
unless you see me, and if you see me mid-season not shooting for them, they fired me. Okay.
no comment. Anyhow,
No, I'm going to be with Matthews for a long time. So
exactly. So, and of course, people are going to go to the thing and be like, I'm sure the rumor will hit Archery Talk tomorrow. Levi works for Expedition Archery. No, he doesn't. But what other brands under the Expedition Enterprises umbrella do you think you might get deeper involved with?
yeah, we haven't really even talked about that yet. The brands that I work with there are Chess Fight and Hunt Club or Hunt Camp, and Hunt Camp is like
Hunt
a
Club.
brand. Yeah, no. Hunt Camp is like a brand building. Those guys come from catching deers. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that kind, like just very smart guys that build that. And then Chess Fight is the video production side of things too. Just
Oh,
yeah, Joe Sir and Heath and all those guys over there that do a lot of really cool stuff that way. So like just digitally, like smart guys with webs and back ends of website stuff. It's not really like products
okay.
brands I work with
Gotcha.
them on at any other level right now. So we haven't talked about any other product besides Element. The other brands I work with them are just like logistics brands
Sure.
type thing.
Understood. Understood.
So
Well, but you also know why I asked the question, because people are going to go there and be like, yeah, the gig.
oh, sure, yeah, yeah, yeah. But for like, there's zero conversation happening about me and any other brands that are under the Expedition.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, not even there's not even been a email sent or a text. It's just not even in the. We're not even talking about it. So
I'm here to help. What's my cut? No, I'm just kidding.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah. So no, dude, that's super good. I am super happy for you. Let's kind of pivot a little bit to some actual archery stuff real quick. So
Right.
congratulations on the IBO this weekend. You can add that to the ever growing list of notches on the belt there. But I wanted to ask you a question. So, this is, as well as everybody that archers love to tinker, and archers are
Mhm.
always changing something, trying to find something. And so the question I had for you is, you can go back to 2005, 2010, whenever, I don't really care. What was your IBO arrow build? We'll just call it back in the day versus your IBO arrow build now.
Yeah, a lot different because we didn't have speed. We could shoot speed back then.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
a
I
lot
forgot
different.
about that.
IBO, ASA's weight, pretty similar, but IBO builds a lot different now.
Okay. Well,
Um,
then never mind that question, because that
okay,
I didn't remember that part. So
yeah,
transition that to the ASA build, since
got it. Okay.
it's had this speed limit the whole time.
Yeah, so the ASA back in the 2009 to 2012 range, probably, I was from one end of the spectrum to the other. I would shoot 27 size arrows. I won tournaments with. I won all the way down with 246s. I don't know if you remember, but when I won Reading, what year was that? 2012, 11?
Something like that.
Yeah, I won like I forget how many tournaments in a row
Seventy-five,
with
95s.
246. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so I won IBO, ASA, Reading, Indoor Nationals, all with the same, like the little 246 arrows.
Yeah.
So, but then like if I had to take a percentage wise, I would say 90% of the time back then I'm shooting a 27 diameter with 100 grain points, light points, and like a blazer style vein.
Right.
You know, and so now I feel like my arrow builds are a lot better now. Like back then, it was just like ignorance is bliss, dude. If it hits the middle, let's go, you know. And now it's like, man, and back then I would have several arrows I would be turning knocks on, or you know, just didn't hit or whatever. I probably because of the way I built them, but now I'm shooting in the ASA. I've won ASAs with the 23s, the 25s, and the 27s from Ultra, but right now I'm shooting at 25s.
Yeah.
I just really love that size. Like, you know, and I love the X cutter size too. Like, I just feel like that's a great all around 3D size, you
Sure.
know, because I want to cut some lines, but I don't want, you know, I want kind of the 27s can drift a lot if you get in a windy situation. Um, but you know what? I go through stages where I'm like, nah, this is the answer. And then I shoot a different one and I'm like, no, this one's the answer. But I really do like the 25s a ton um, for the ASA setup, shooting like 150 grain points with a 275 three fletch, weigh like 450 grains, I think. So
It is
that's the go to this year.
is the higher point weight nowadays because the GPI of the arrows is lower these days than because I mean, let's be honest. And yes, dude, the X cutter, deserted island, you got to bring one arrow. You could hold up your tent with those arrows. You could beat an animal to death with those arrows, or you could shoot them, but they were not light. They just weren't
No,
light. And
no,
so
they weren't.
is today's build have more point weight simply because of the GPI, or has your pounds went up? Like because the speed limit's basically been the same. So what has resulted in the extra 50 up front?
Well, you know, the Apex wasn't a speed demon, you know,
No, no.
back in the day. So I would say it's a little bit of everything. I'd say the grains per inch is a little lighter. And I would say my poundage is a little more. My draw length is a half inch longer. And the title is quite a bit faster.
Right. Well,
So
and for those of you wondering that might not think 1 grain per inch means much, take a 30-inch arrow, like about a 30-inch arrow, that's 30 grains just in the
yeah,
shaft itself at 1 grain. So arrows have gotten a lot lighter. So you just said something. So your draw length. And so for those of you that haven't had the visual pleasure of Levi back in the ASA heydays when he was larger, he was he was more Levi than he is now, uh,
mhm.
by probably 40 pounds.
Yeah, probably at
Yeah.
least.
So
Mhm.
Levi wasn't fat. Levi was healthy.
I was pretty chubby, Greg. You're not going to hurt my feelings, okay? So
Levi was filling up his jersey. We'll put it that way.
that's right. Yeah, all
And
of it.
so and obviously now Levi works out a lot. He's taking so I'm proud of Levi for that. What do you think has led to the half-inch longer draw length?
I think probably some of that, you know, just it's hard to even like some people are like, no way that's you. You know, I think when your body changes that much, I think everything does, you know.
Right.
Um, I think working out has changed that a little bit too, and like a lot of stretching, and like as I've gotten older, I like really stretch my shoulders out before I lift. And so I feel like just the whole composition of my body has changed a little bit. And then you take a quarter inch of padding off of your hand from being, you know, looking like a grizzly bear that just came into hibernation. But
Right.
I think a lot of that, you know, has changed for me. Just I don't feel like I shoot the same shot really as I shot back then.
In what way? Well, I mean, because look, folks, I've said this forever. If you want to look at the probably the most purest shot in the world ever, the most consistent, look at Jesse Broadwater. If
Mhm.
you want to look at the most disciplined shot, it's Levi Morgan. Because I've been standing there and I've damn near got dizzy because his release hand is shaking like a dog pooping razor blades and he's boop, boop, right in the middle. So
Mhm.
Levi's shot is incredibly disciplined. I mean,
Yeah.
you and I have talked about this before. Like you're like, oh, my pin was moving all over, and I'm like, bullshit, bro. I was watching. Your stabilizer wasn't moving very much. Your release hand, on the other hand,
Mhm.
was how are you even looking through your peep?
Right.
Arrows
Yeah.
in the middle. So when you say you were shooting a different kind of shot back then, and also for those of you that have any historical reference, Levi would straight up go from a button to a hinge from arrow to arrow.
Hmm.
That
Yeah, I
didn't.
did a lot. I think, well, I don't know that my shots changed. I think like, how do I put this? I think a lot more now for some reason. Like I had to go through a phase, like when in my early 20s to probably 27, I just felt like I couldn't miss, like whatever, it's going to hit the middle,
Damn near
and
couldn't.
then, yeah. And then, went through a stage where I had to regroup where I didn't win as much for maybe a year. And then I heard the chatter, like he's washed up. So I had to like rebuild mentally.
Right.
And, I feel like I have a more intentional shot system now,
Okay.
more than anything. I'm still very static, but not as static as I was in my early 20s.
Okay.
And I think that's a lot to do with the bow as well. Like the Apex, you know, we shot it for 8 years, and so I shot that bow very relaxed, almost a little arm bend, higher anchor on my face. Like all of that stuff has changed. So I think even having a little bit lower anchor has been one of the things that lengthened my draw length too. Um, but what it's allowed me to do is just be more intentional with every shot,
Gotcha.
instead of just letting it float out there in the abyss and knowing it's going to hit the middle. Because now I know that sometimes it doesn't hit the middle.
Right. Well, I mean, look, dude, I mean, everybody's on a learning curve. I was on a learning curve. We're still learning. Levi was certainly on a learning curve. And what he said about ignorance is bliss, he's not lying. When I first
Right.
worked with him with Bee Stinger, I would ask him questions. He's like, I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't
I did
know.
know.
And we're like, I'm like, have you torque tuned this bow? And he's like, no. But folks, mind you, we're talking about 16 years ago. So,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, when I won Reading, remember how bad my third axis was? I was
bro,
having to aim off the dot downhill right and off the dot left downhill and off the dot right uphill
he
and
didn't,
won
folks,
Reading.
full disclosure, Levi didn't tell me that before we started shooting.
Hey, we were partners in Reading when I
Yes.
won too.
And by the way, folks, I literally told Levi, you have to come to this. Levi shows up first time ever. I walk him and Samantha around the whole course and we take pictures and do all that shit. And literally, Levi's like, yeah, I've never done anything like this. I'm like,
Mm.
cool, man.
I didn't even have a lens. I was
No,
shooting no lens. Yeah.
exactly. And I'm literally like, stand there, set your sight for this, shoot 2 arrows in that dot. And he did it all day for 3 days. He only missed 5. And he didn't tell me till after the fact. After the fact, oh yeah, I was aiming off downhill left. And I was like, we could have fixed that in like 5 minutes. He's like, oh, yeah, it worked.
I
So
just figured when I was in my 20s, dude, I just figured out a way to hit where I wanted to hit. And like, I don't know. I think it's good though. I think I like that, like how I've evolved, the way I've grown, because I still have that in me. When something goes wrong, I don't feel out of the tournament.
sure.
You know what I'm saying? I feel like, okay, like I'll just because something moved or something changed in my bow, it doesn't mean I can't win. But you see a lot of people when something isn't perfect, they don't know how to act in that situation. It's over for them right there. So I think all those years of just figuring out a way to win, like I don't know, just aim left,
Literally.
where like Tim Gillingham, his head would have exploded, right?
Right.
Because he wants his stuff to be perfect. And I'm like, I'll just aim left. And that was my mindset for so long that, yes, now I want my stuff to be perfect. But when something goes wrong out on the course,
Right.
and I'm like, I think my third axis is off, I'm like, who cares? Like,
Right.
let's get through the day and we'll fix it. You know what I'm saying? So,
Oh yeah. No, I mean his first time out, folks, he tied the record at 5 down and 1. I was just like, this freaking guy right here. And yes, we would have cleaned it as a team, but I missed. That was my fault.
right,
But
we both had to miss the miss.
yeah, but you were railing and it was my job to back cleanup and I did it 4 out of 5 times. But anyway.
Has anybody ever cleaned it as a team now?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
it's happened several times. Ben Hobbs and Tommy Daly were the first folks to ever do it.
Gotcha.
locals there. You and I would have been second if I wouldn't have screwed it up. But
Gotcha.
it was good times back there. But folks, the whole reason for that is what, kind of what Levi said is, look, man, when you go out there with the mentality of it doesn't matter what happens, I'm going to do what I do, and I'll always be able to overcome what it is within reason, of course. Uh, that is a mentality that is, that's a champion's mentality.
Hmm.
And whether it's, shooting an ASA or an IBO and having bad lighting, or the weather wasn't spectacular at the IBO last weekend, right?
No, it wasn't. No.
Yeah, I saw the videos of like rivers flowing
Mhm.
down parking lots. So,
Yeah.
you
But
know,
that's also, why I loved London, Kentucky too. I've always said that. I love London because everybody else hates it.
the ticks, you like the ticks?
No, I don't like the ticks. I like the hills, the bad lighting, the bad footing. Because everybody else hates it so much. They just are thinking about the next one already. And I'm like, man, I've won more money at London, Kentucky than anywhere in the world because
Right.
it's just like where I grew up in the, in the mountains and bad lighting and, you know, shade on one side and bright sun on the other and downhill, uphill, cross gullies.
There
So,
you go. That's it. Well, hey man, I really appreciate you spending some time with me today. I know that you're a busy dude and you got some good property out there in Pennsylvania. So you got farming, and every time I text you, I get a picture from a tractor or a picture behind some sort of apparatus of some kind doing some sort of land management. So and yes, folks, occasionally I get a picture of him behind a bow, but generally speaking, I get more pictures behind a piece of equipment. So he's out there putting in the work. He's reaping the rewards just like everything else that he has in his life. So keep up the good work, dude. I'm excited to see what Element Outdoors has to offer for you, and just keep on doing the thing.
all right, man. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
All right, you bet. All right, everybody. That was Levi Morgan, the manimal right there. Super happy to see him, continuing the success that he has earned. And look, folks, I don't care what anyone says, nothing, especially in this sport, in this industry, nothing is given. Those days ended a long time ago. And so everything Levi has, he has earned, from all the championships to the success with his businesses to his television show. Now, obviously, he'll continue to have the television show in whatever regard, but transitioning over to YouTube and that kind of stuff, it is, it's great to watch because I see, and I've told the story. I was with him when we were in a Dick's, and he had to call Samantha and see if they had $85 to buy a freaking Under Armour jersey. This is before the sponsorships were really much of a thing. So I'm super happy to see where he's got, super proud of him, and he's going to keep on doing the thing. But that's going to be the podcast for today, folks. Appreciate you tuning in. And yes, as always, I'll try to get some more of these out. But once again, 2 million downloads doesn't suck, especially on this side of things. So I appreciate you for that. And we'll just keep on doing it. So whatever you're doing out there this weekend, folks. Oh, by the way, happy belated birthday. Jeez Louise. Happy belated Father's Day to Levi and all the dads out there. Hopefully you guys got pampered a little bit on that day. But whatever you're doing out there this weekend, you guys be careful, regardless of what it is. You guys know the drill. We want to hear from you, not about you. And as always, love, peace, and chicken grease.